everyone. It's me, Ted, and Kate Birch here from Unpacked, coming to you with another episode. Today, talking about tariffs and TikTok. I'm not sure what will be going on with tariffs as and when this comes out, but at the moment, on what are we on the 11th of April, recording this, it's all been a bit crazy this week. Lots of changes and things that definitely going to affect e-commerce, full stop, but obviously Amazon and other channels as well. And then a little bit of an announcement, but I haven't really heard anything since. Again, now on the 11th of April, around Amazon potentially buying TikTok or putting in a bid at least for TikTok in the US. So yeah, lots going on.
I'll be surprised if they don't buy TikTok. I can't imagine how else it will be solved, and I can't imagine who else will buy it. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it ends up.
Yeah, there were some other bids from kind of venture capital type people and that sort of thing. But Amazon's definitely been scared of Temu, probably a little bit impressed with Shein, whatever you want to call them, and like TikTok Shop. A lot of people who work there who have set TikTok Shop up at ex-Amazon and that kind of thing. And so they're bringing all that knowledge over to TikTok. So it would be smart if Amazon could pull that off. And they've always struggled with video. They've always struggled with live shopping. So to kind of then have that potentially expertise and stuff in-house would be, really interesting for them, and would definitely change the game from an e-com point of view for a lot of people. Yeah.
So I guess kicking off with tariffs, which has been a very crazy one. I guess the main thing we wanted to investigate, right, was what it means for anyone selling on Amazon, how you can get around it, how you can mitigate the loss of revenue, I guess, that some people are going to be seeing. Do you want to kick off, Ted?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one, and yeah, as I said, we don't know what the kind of environment's going to be like when this goes out. So we won't quote any numbers and things, but like as it stands now, Trump's kind of put out a load of tariffs a few days ago, different levels for different people. But then as of, I think yesterday, he's kind of said, okay, everyone, we're going to put a pause on, and everyone's tariffs are going to be set at 10%, except for China, which they're now in a kind of tit for tat type thing and is getting a bit crazy. That will likely continue to escalate, but then they will have to come to the table just because it's getting a little bit nuts. So I would assume that when this goes out, that conversation's kind of being had at the very least. Either way, it's definitely caused a bit of a shockwave. And for that, like China to US / the rest of the world relationship, which is super key for e-com brands, then yeah, that's going to cause a bit of an upset. Personally, I think the big loser will be particularly like the American consumer, but generally consumers worldwide who are going to see prices go up just because they're going to have to. And I think a realization of how embedded Chinese manufacturing is in like everything. So even if your product's made in the US, your car or whatever it is, it's probably got a screw or something or a motherboard chip, whatever it might be, that's made in China. So like everything's, whether it's made it wherever it's made, is always has something that's made in China in it. So it's going to be kind of widespread, I think.
I think it's really going to change like the way that consumers really understand like product packaging and the way that things are manufactured. Because I know loads of people, and I don't know whether it's because we work in the industry, but they believe that any product they buy that doesn't say is made in China has been like made in the UK completely. And I don't think everyone realizes that all of those parts are made in China. They're just shipped somewhere else to be assembled. And I think once people start to realize like, okay, this product's now costing me more, but I actually thought it was all along made in the UK or something like that, people will start to understand like the knock-on effect that all has. Because I know like brands that I've worked with who like you would think, yes, they'll say that they're made in the UK, but they're all just assembled there, right? Like it's this is going to affect so many more brands than people just think. And I think specifically on Amazon, in the beginning it was just like, oh, okay, I'll clear out the Chinese resellers, but actually it's going to be a massively widespread issue.
Yeah, 100%. Do you remember when, I think this was in COVID, when that boat like ran aground in the
Oh
Suez
yeah,
Canal?
yeah.
And so suddenly everyone was like became super clued up on supply chains and like how reliant we were on this tiny, like very skinny bit of water between the
100%.
Mediterranean and the like Arabian Sea. And yeah, I think this will be a similar thing in terms of people becoming, particularly consumers, becoming aware of what's involved. I think the Chinese reseller point is interesting. I think that at least now, again, as we're recording, they're going to have stock in the US. So, like,
Yeah.
there won't necessarily be an immediate effect, but they will be looking um, ahead and deciding like what to do around that. And so, yeah, I mean, they don't have that many options really, aside from putting prices up. Or pulling out completely and kind of focusing elsewhere. So could be good news for US based brands on Amazon from that perspective. But either way, the US brands will probably have to put their prices up as well. So we'll see how that works. But it could be bad news for European or other marketplaces where suddenly they then get flooded with these products that were kind of destined for the US. I guess Amazon can kind of mitigate that slightly by putting in inventory limits and that sort of thing, which I've seen some little bit of news about recently. So we'll see how that goes. And then I think it's just going to become a nightmare for so like supply chain managers, e-com managers, all of these people. Having to keep up on these things which they never really had to worry about too much before. Like you could bake it into your P&L and sort of forget about it.
Well, I think with the stock thing, like, yes, brands are going to be obviously sitting on tons of stock some stock in the US anyway, but I'm guessing no one air freights anymore. They'll all be sea freighting. So if they've got like however many thousand units like on the sea, then surely they just have to leave it there and pay the tariff when it gets into the US. Like, they can't, I just guess, turn it away, right? They have to just sell it through.
They could, but again, these are then going to be busy. Use like bonded warehouses and things where they can
Sure.
it can sit like in. They don't have to pay duty, but if they ever wanted to,
Yeah.
I don't know what the end game with that is. Either you keep it there and wait it out, it'd be expensive, but yeah, or you at least get the product there, unload it, and then reload it and send it back or somewhere else. Or tricky
I
one.
think it definitely gives an opportunity for, like you were saying, like real US brands to, like, I guess, stake their claim more on Amazon, like where you'd see before, 5 Chinese resellers selling the same variation of product but in a different color or without a logo on it. Like, if they do clear out, I mean, they'll come to Europe, like you said, but it does give a nice opportunity to be able to really stake your claim on the customer, I guess.
Yeah,
I would assume
100%.
that cost per clicks will go down because they're not going to be spending. So yes, everyone's budgets might go down, but if cost per clicks are going down, you've still like got the same like bang for your
Yeah,
buck almost, I guess. So I
yeah.
think it could be, I think there's definitely an upside, not much of an upside, but some
Yeah.
upside.
And I guess that was sort of probably, well, he knows what he's thinking, but partly behind the Trump
Definitely.
logic was to sort of safeguard American business a bit more. I don't know. It would be super interesting to find out like how Amazon's algorithm, which I as like an
Definitely.
agency owner like talk about a lot, and that's all sort of like very price sensitive, and then fine if all these Chinese resellers clear out, but in the US, people are probably going to have to put their prices up. So there'll be this like vacuum created with potentially people leaving, but then also the algorithm's not really going to know what's hit it because everyone will be putting prices up and all this sort of thing. So
Yeah.
the opportunity, I think, if you can hold your nerve, is big, and we've seen that before with like the Brexit kind of impact on people and prices and things like that. And
Mm-hmm.
and COVID as well, the ones that sort of doubled down and either kind of held their nerve or doubled down in that period and then did the best, like out the other end. That I think in this case, and depending on your product, will take a lot of nerve. But if you can manage it and pull it off, I think the rewards on the other side could be worth it. I don't know what you think about that.
I completely agree, and I actually don't think that it's going to change much for like UK or European brands selling in the US. Like, I don't think this is going to have a huge effect. I think the only thing you'll do is pull back on your advertising spend, I assume, to protect your P&L. Like, I can't imagine people are going to be pulling out or doing this or doing that. I think anyone that is able to like ramp it up and like you say, really take advantage of it, great. But I can't imagine most people will be in that position. I think
And
you
then put
just
your price, put your price
putting
up.
on, yeah,
Yeah,
put your RRPs up, pulling your ad spend, and stay put, I guess.
yeah, 100%. And then I think the other option, and people are starting to think about this, I think, is again for US based brands, is if you are importing or if your product is coming from China to like mitigate what could potentially be a now very expensive import, is not coming into the US at all, but now looking at Europe and or other countries, at least from an Amazon perspective, to set up or launch in or double down on if you are already set up there,
Yeah.
because you're then not paying that tariff, at least at the moment. There's no kind of major tariff on imports that in that direction.
I
um
think as well, like I never give Amazon like any recognition for anything. I think they're terrible most of the time. But the EU distribution, pan EU, FBA, etc., like it is amazing. It's like a well-oiled machine, right? You can literally just drop it off anywhere in the big four and they'll just put it everywhere else. So I think I think the size of the prize is a real reason why more US brands don't open it up. But I also think it's just like experience, right? Like same as we've got more experience in Europe than shipping to Canada and Mexico. Like I guess it's kind of a similar thing.
mhm.
I think yeah, like it's obviously so easy to switch on. That yeah, it's an
Yeah,
amazing
I mean, it
opportunity.
is literally a button that you use to turn it on. I think there's always the compliance, the language, I think is easy to underestimate, and
It
the
is.
and
You'll
and the
have
VAT. But
if you're in
yeah,
Mexico, you'll have
Spanish.
Spanish.
Yeah,
That's one
yeah,
off. And
yeah,
Canada, you'll have France.
yeah, just about. Yeah. And then yeah, German's the biggest market, often bigger than the UK for certain categories and things.
Yeah,
But they're very weird consumer compared to the UK or
100.
US. Like you really have to get inside their heads to get it right. So there's lots of things that I think US brands think are complicated and potentially expensive. Yes, they can be complicated depending on your product, but they're not necessarily as expensive as you think, and they're
No,
definitely not as expensive as paying whatever the tariff will be on Chinese imports into the US, at least at the moment. So yeah, definitely think that should be a strong consideration. Again, negatives for that would be European/UK based sellers potentially getting crowded out by a whole load of probably quite wealthy US brands coming in, and not wealthy but low priced Chinese products also coming in, and so it's going to be a bit crazy in Europe potentially if it goes that way. Um, but yeah, the one strategy, I guess, for
definitely.
to kind of mitigate some of this. Um, what
And
about
also,
you wanted? Sorry.
if it was a US brand, I don't know, going into Asia or something, like you'd be maybe slightly more concerned about performance. Like if it was just going to land in Japan and expect a boom, you'd be a bit concerned. But really, a US brand entering Europe, like you say, with okay, probably the exception of the German customer being slightly more difficult. It's a pretty much, I'd say, a guaranteed sell, right? Like the US and UK customer, very similar. With regards to beauty, anyway, Italian customer, very similar. So yeah, I think it's a pretty much guaranteed and an easy sell, I'd say.
Yeah, we're seeing it a lot more now when we're researching opportunities and things. Spain and Italy,
Mm,
having been I was always said it was UK, Germany, Spain, and Italy were kind of a duo that were like in terms of the ranking were lower down, but because they're a bit more classic, a bit more of a classic customer, a bit easier to understand, and the categories aren't as well developed yet compared to Germany and the UK. There's massive opportunity in those two. France is trickier because well, I'm in France. They hate Amazon. There's more marketplaces as well. So at French launches, Amazon plus probably two or three other marketplaces to get a similar sort of volume.
Mm,
Um, so yeah, they're just kind of, I guess, exciting options.
definitely.
Yeah, particularly beauty, fashion as well, um, and yeah, just general Amazon usage. Wanted to talk about Shein and Temu as well.
Yeah, and I mean, they are also. I think the way that they ship at the moment, right? They don't pay tariffs on anything that they ship because it's under a specific threshold. But they will also start to as well on their shipments. So, I mean, depending. I mean, I would have had switched on if your product was suitable. I would have switched on Shein or Temu anyway, just from an awareness perspective. Obviously, you don't want to devalue the brand, but the amount of people that purchase on those marketplaces is huge. But I think obviously you would expect that their prices are going to go sky high as a result of the tariffs, which people have just never been used to, right? We've kind of been through and seen Amazon's pricing fluctuate. We're kind of used to that. But I think seeing, Shein and Temu and how their RRPs will change will just be insane. It's never been anything the customer's seen before, I don't think.
Yeah. And I guess their thing as well, what a thing about them, maybe Sheen slightly less so, but Timu was like the delivery times, which were long anyway, and then now probably be really, really long. And if you're then spending more on that and then waiting a really long time, you've sort of slightly lost the value proposition of Timu. Sheen I definitely don't know as much about, but yeah, yeah, but more, I guess, more fashion, right? Yeah, yeah. It's yeah. Cost is lower for advertising. I think that it comes down to the content though. I think you need to be able to produce like TikTok friendly content in house or via an agency. It doesn't really matter, but at a scale and with an ability to test that pretty well to get it right. I think. And then maybe still price. I know they're doing a lot what Amazon did at the beginning, where they're offering like free discounts paid for by them to get you going. But I think long term, people are still looking for that value. That is good. Yeah, yeah. Maybe a bit more, uh, or like you could have a marginally more higher priced. Maybe I don't know. Mhm. The big sell, I think, for me with TikTok, and again, you need the capability to do it, is the ability to talk directly with your consumer. So like the lives, I don't know if you've done any of them, but I've seen people who have. Yeah, and you're like you can see the comments coming in. You can be, someone will be on the laptop like off camera chatting to people, and sort of building that up is great. So for challenger brands, where maybe Amazon's a little bit expensive, and like, yeah, that kind of bit more hacky type of build, it works really well. Whether you're doing that in all of those countries that it's just opened up with, probably not. But like, um, yeah, Germany, Germany plus one other maybe makes sense depending on the brand. But also just being there, I think in a lot of cases is is a good strategy. Mm. And you can team them up, so you can use TikTok to drive traffic to Amazon. I mean, it only works that way. You can't do it the other way around. But that can really help boost your Amazon. So if you're a US brand coming over to Europe, it is a great way for getting your ranking up like quite quickly. Um, whilst also having TikTok Shop on, like you can still have both. Uh, but yeah, get them both kind of working together works quite well. Um, hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, at least yeah, Brexit was like border shut down, so that was crazy. Uh, yeah, but it like it will be there'll be stuff like literally this week at least. There'll be stuff on boats or like at ports that's being processed, and there'll be some that's been processed enough to like not have the extra tariff on, and some that yet hasn't. And so there'll be people getting invoices soon that will look a bit scary. Um, but yeah, I think just with the shock, there will be definitely for the next few months slower times. Again, I think where Amazon's strength is, and they're starting to shout about this a bit more, is their freight, Amazon Freight and Amazon Global Logistics, which are two separate things. Global Logistics is like more cross border, and freight's internal, but you can pair them up. So again, they do air, they do sea routes, and so getting stuff over from China and other places, and then kind of getting it into the network, Amazon network, and they deliver to non-Amazon places as well. Um, I think they'll start shouting about that a little bit more. Mhm. Yeah, yeah, really good. Um, and then yeah, we haven't talked too much about customers, so I guess there'll be penny pinching potentially as well, particularly in the US. People will be a bit shocked that like all the pension pots and all that kind of thing has taken a bit of a hit recently. So there'll be tightening purse strings, which will probably go in line with brands spending less on ads. Like I wouldn't be surprised if that like drop was similar. But that will obviously mean kind of lower gross sales for people, at least for a period of time, potentially linked up with like wider recession and all of that kind of thing. But you might get a little bit like with prices going a bit crazy, you might get people trying to stockpile stuff whilst they think it's cheap. So there might be a little bump over the next couple of weeks for people. Yeah, and that's all, yeah, through content and making sure the little flag icon you have on your packaging's like maybe enlarged a little bit or whatever it needs to be, just so that sings through, and in your ads as well, um, video sponsor brand, etc. Focusing on that. Yeah, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Yeah, on Amazon, and then TikTok is still cheap, so it'll be interesting to see if a bit more money floods into that now that they've opened up wider markets and things. I think if stock, depending on, and this will depend a lot like per country, but I think depending on stock levels in FBA. So I definitely saw some stuff today about people seeing stock limits on setting up shipments. So they said they want to send in whatever 1,000 units, and Amazon were like, oh, you can only send in 800 and that kind of thing. So I think that will happen a bit in certain places, and then potentially additional fees on that, particularly if they're managing a lot. I guess with Prime Day, Black Friday, if it's still going on, then just be super prepped for that. Like send in a month before your kind of top up for that, if not longer, because it's always tough around then anyway. But yeah, I don't know what they did for was it Brexit or COVID? They did do an additional it's called like a gas fee or something, wasn't it, for like the petrol costs? Yeah, yeah. There's not much you can do about those. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, definitely be around storage, and then yeah, if there's some massive effect on petrol or I don't know what else would kind of influence that. But they're the only ones I've really seen before. Yeah, or just the standard FBA fee going up, but they're pretty high. They'd struggle to get it much higher, I think. Yeah, it's normally around now because their financial year, at least in Europe's April to March. So it's normally in March that they do an announcement. But yeah, I don't think there was anything this year major. Yes. Yeah, yeah. No, yeah. Hopefully we'll get this out in a couple of weeks, so this will be like fresh enough that this will be relevant and interesting. What have we got? Have we got anything coming up? We've had our first interview with David Law. Um, yeah, and so we've got Prime Day. We haven't booked anything in specifically to talk about that, but the kind of emails gone out, dates out 4 days, so that's going to be worth talking about because that will, yeah, that will be 4 days and more deals, more stock going out, more planning, all with this background we've just spoken about going on as well. So yeah, yeah, one for next time maybe. Perfect. Thanks, Kate. Anyone listening, please give us a like, subscribe wherever you're listening to us from. Lots of YouTube watchers, listeners. So yeah, give us a like and a follow on that. Thanks very much.